Hi, I'm McAtee, and today I'd like to share with you a few things I've learned working in the field of aquaculture. I'd like to say first off that my degree is not in aquaculture, it's in fish ecology and management. So there is some crossover, but a lot of the things I'm going to say is from my own work experience and may or may not be the same as they teach you in aquaculture classes. I don't really know. But my background in fish ecology does influence the way that I look at different things in aquaculture. And most of my experience has been working in the field of aquaculture. I worked in Alaska. I spent a few months raising salmon. Then I did a temporary job at a Kansas hatchery with walleye, channel catfish, largemouth bass, and hybrid sunfish. So I raised a few different species there, just worked with them, raising them in earthen ponds mostly. And then from there I went to Colorado and worked with tilapia and recirculation systems. And most recently I'm working in Idaho, raising rainbow trout out of raceways. And the main things I'm wanting to focus on for this video are the things that seem common to me amongst all these different species and all these different locations. There's certain factors that you're always going to be looking at, and just in my experience, how you affect one variable will change another, to give you good principles for managing whatever your facilities may be for raising fish. And also my background in ecology, like I said, has an influence on this. So there's two main goals, I'd say, for most aquaculture. You're looking for increase in growth and increase in survivorship. Looks like that's coming up backwards on the camera. Hopefully you can still understand. But anyway, looking for increase in growth, looking for bigger, larger quality fish, increase in survivorship. You want enough fish to survive either to the point of release or to the point of slaughter. And of course, if you're stocking a place like ponds, you want them to survive after you stock them too. But anyway, these are the primary goals I think aquaculture has. And there's a number of different variables that are going to influence whether or not your growth is high enough, whether or not your survivorship is high enough. Say the first thing that's going to increase both of these, and want to be vigilant about measuring it and controlling it, and by whatever means you have available, it's going to be your water quality. You want to increase that any way you can. And different species are going to have different needs as far as their water quality. The need of a trout is going to be a lot different than the needs of a catfish. So basically, with the water quality, I'd say dissolved oxygen across the board, you always want to have that as high as possible. That should always increase your growth and survivorship. But then there's a whole list of other things you want to look for in water quality depending on what species you have. You might want to be looking more at your ammonias, which ammonia, nitrite, all the factors indicating nitrogenous waste that can become poisonous to fish. Different system you want to focus on that. pH might be an important factor. Usually the acidity of your water isn't going to be a huge factor. What is going to be a huge factor is that pH is going to indicate other things like dissolved CO2. It's going to be an indication of your water hardness, and it can affect your fish in any number of ways. Then you're going to look at like just the amount of pathogens in your pond. It's going to affect your fish, the amount of bacteria that could possibly pass to your fish. Just overall, getting better water for the fish. And like I said, different species, you have different goals. So you're going to try to find the optimal water quality you have, and that should increase growth and survivorship. Best way to increase your water quality is going to be some means like you can manipulate the system in a way that doesn't cause you to decrease the next factors we're going to talk about. Is always going to be the best way. but sometimes you will need to change these next factors. So the next one we'll talk about will be your stocking density. And of course, your stocking density is going to affect your water quality, it's going to affect your growth, it's going to affect your survivorship. I have to look at stocking density, like I said, the ecological viewpoint on things. If you look at a tank or a pond or a raceway, same way you look at an organism that's in its natural environment, and it's pretty similar to view it that way. You may have taken a biology course and be familiar with carrying capacity, K. And this first curve they usually show you in class is, number of animals increases, so animals increases, and an increase in that, and over time, so you have a gradual increase over time until you hit K and where it slopes off, and then it will no longer hold any more animals. Of course, that's not realistically what happens in nature or in an aquaculture setting. The reason for that is you're going to stock your fish differently than animals would occur in nature, and even in nature, like I said, just doesn't work that way. But typically you have is an increase of animals that overshoots the carrying capacity, then you get a critical point where it starts to drop off, and you have a large scale decrease. And if you can't stock more animals into it, you're not going to reach K again. So be very cautious about how you stock your number of fish initially. And it's not just important because there's a certain amount of fish you can hold in there. It's important because when you overshoot K, like I said, have a dramatic drop in your fish survivorship and your growth for that matter. Because if you reach a critical point and fish start dying, then you have factors like, okay, if you can't pick all your mortality out in a realistic setting, you're not going to get all of your morts out. So you have morts decomposing, that's going to decrease your water quality. Then you overshoot K initially, you have all these animals that probably defecated before they died or whatever. You have the excess load of feces, you had decomp like I mentioned, and you just have the general overcrowding causing stress. All these factors, if you're overshooting K, bring down growth and survivorship. That's not to say that you should play it safe and always undershoot K either. I mean, wanting consistent results, undershooting the system, yeah, that's going to get you growth and survivorship, but it's not necessarily going to get you the most production for the amount of money you invest in if you're selling yourself short as far as how many fish I'm going to raise at one point. So it's a balance any way you go about it. And another factor that's going to affect all these other variables is going to be your feed. In most aquaculture settings, you're going to need to feed your fish. I know there's some instances where you have a natural system where it's naturally getting nutrients input, and from there you got your plant growth, your plankton, you got your other animals and insects and stuff that the fish can feed off of, and you may not necessarily have to supplement the feeding, but realistically, nearly all settings you're going to need to add some feed to the equation. And of course your feed, ideally that's going to increase your growth, it's going to increase survivorship, you don't have your fish starving off, you don't, and of course, you got to eat in order to grow. So typically you want to increase feed, but I'd say that's the same as stocking density in the fact that you can overshoot and have too much feed. Anytime you have too much feed in your ponds or tanks or anything like that, too much feed is definitely going to cause a drop in your water quality again. And having the decomp of the feed itself, having, mostly this decomp issue is going to be pretty much toxic to fish as far as having decomp for ammonia and drop in dissolved oxygen. I've seen issues where if you have, like mostly tilapia had issues where if you had any amount of feed left floating on the surface, you'd see the fish start piping up, indicating low DO, and of course you check it with your DO meter. DO just plummeted because you overfed them, and then any amount of mulch you leave in your ponds, like I said, decom from that is going to cause a drop in water quality. It's in just small amounts really can have a huge impact on you. So you want to be vigilant about watching your feedings, making sure you're not overfeeding your fish. Because yeah, you overshoot the amount of feed you're supposed to have, you don't achieve optimal growth. You can't just feed magically fish grow bigger and bigger without having a tipping point, because you're going to drop your water quality. Eventually you're going to have an increase in mortality, and lead to number of different issues with water quality, like I said. And I'd say, yeah, these are the main principles I've found working across different species of fish. And really, an imbalance of any of them can cause some huge problems for you if you're not careful about what you're doing. But yeah, you just gotta look at your species, look at the conditions that are best for it, look at the resources you have available, and just figure out how we can get our best growth, how we can get our best survivorship, and that overall is going to increase that money, which is ultimately going to be your goal regardless of, you know, what the setup is. If you're a state facility, you might think, okay, we need to increase fishing opportunities, but why are we doing that? It's to increase fishing license sales. And let's say you're doing a stock replenishment program. You say, okay, we want more fish available. Well, why are we doing that? We're needing to get funding. And of course, there's the obvious thing of private business. You're looking to increase your profits and be able to pay your workers and, you know, make money as owners. So those are the main things I want to go over in this video, and I hope it helps you out with your pursuits in aquaculture, or just looking to learn something new. I'll see you next time.